no, Abofo, Kinkesu, up to Ejura Amantin to Atebubu.
Wow.
You get my point? So Mampo to Atebubu. So, and all these places, they have other access roads where you may not even pass Kumasi. Because you can pass from Mampo to Ejoso and go to Accra. Quite apart from that, you know, Kumasi is a political hotbed. Today you are NDC, tomorrow you are MPP. The tagging is here.
FM 92.7.
Western region, nobody even told me I'm this, I'm that. But here, today you are MPP because maybe you didn't favor somebody who is coming for NDC. Tomorrow you are NDC because you are doing your work for the government.
They say that you've been doing your work without fear. A few cases which
are
you didn't care?
No. Because you see, before any policeman, and this goes to all of us, before you can have the power, you don't have to be afraid to lose power. Yes. Most people get a position, they think this good position I have to be. No, I wouldn't mind going today. If transfer come now, I will not come to office tomorrow. I've finished what I have to do. But my job is to maintain law and order. My job is to curtail impunity. My job is to be the advocate of the oppressed and the vulnerable. And my job is to be fair to everyone. So if you commit offense, no matter who you are, you have to go through the process. If I send you to court and they leave you, fine. It's not my problem. But as a policeman, this uniform will be worthless if I discriminate in applying the law.
Isn't that one of the reasons why you have become so popular?
I don't do that to become popular, but if by so I become popular, it's okay. Because you have your work as a journalist. Let's allow you to do your work based on your conscience. I'm a policeman. Because if you're a policeman and you cannot arrest, you are not worth the uniform. If you're a policeman and people can say that you are this, people can tag you, let them do it, but prove that it's wrong. And in Ashanti region, anybody who will come here and decide to play ball, anybody who will come here and decide that I'm going to be unfair, you lose the plot. You cannot control anybody. Because if a government is in power, you work for the government, you don't work for the party. That is the differences people should know. The station, you work for government, you don't work for party. And I'm always trying to differentiate between the government and the party.
We've spoken a lot about armed robbery. Beyond armed robbery, what are the other crimes, that you have to deal with, especially in Ashanti where you are? Hitherto there used to be a lot of impunity. People acting capriciously, thinking that, you're in our town, beating people, assault and other things, but that has stopped. You remember Ashanti region, people used to be gangsters. I'm the king, Imromu Giant, Figo Davis, Bantaba Samson. That one has stopped. And I think that brought the commander one because gangs.
Yes, I met people and said they cannot be too. I'm the only commander in Ashanti region. Police. I'm the only person who have the legitimate. I can legitimately use force. Nobody, apart from the police. And I think that is gone. Apart from fraud and other offenses. But the preoccupation, my priority is robbery. And robbery, I must tell you, is clear and present danger. Every day we arrest armed robbers, every day robbery happens.
There was somebody or some group of persons that everybody was wondering why they were not being arrested. This U.S. group of companies engaged in tilapia, you arrested them. How did you do it?
That one, I think it was a court order, and we didn't arrest them personally. People talk about it, and of course, they give the credit to us. But honestly, it was something that was a court order, and fortunately they arrested them in Accra and brought them here.
Oh, but there were court orders and they were not being arrested.
But maybe they didn't see them.
But you saw them. But that makes the difference, doesn't it?
But see, I always say that if you cannot arrest, you are not worth the uniform. At a point in time that I feel like I've been compromised, either politically or otherwise, I have to resign.
Now, sir, this one is very controversial but very important. CDD, Afrobarometer report, all of that. They are always citing the police as being amongst the most corrupt. How come? Is it true?
The point is that what is corruption? We have to posit the corruption in the right context. Is it the giving of money?
Or the taking of money?
Or taking of money. That is an infinitesimal aspect of corruption. What about nepotism? What about favoritism? What about patronage? What about clanism? For instance, now, I've seen your people. A policeman arrests TV3 car. They call me, "Oh, Commander, we've been arrested though." Why? "Oh, we don't have insurance, we don't have road royalty." I said, "Let me talk to the boy." "Oh, Cobra, oh, they are my people, leave them." Is that not corruption? People going from maybe CDD, you know somebody, you want your son to be recruited. You go and see somebody because you are a professor. They say, oh, Prof, bring him. He's recruited. Without going through the merits, without going through sun in the sun, he's recruited. And so many other things. So what kind of methodology? What was their point of reference? And that's my problem. And between me and you, if now we go and interview people at the harbor alone, they will have who is more corrupt there.
Exactly.
When we go and interview teachers or people who want to be admitted, JSS, you know who is more corrupt. But you know, police, among all the words, police, we are the interface between the law and the public. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And they see us more. Policemen are always on the road. And even the police corruption they're talking about is only on the roads. The MTU, which we have accepted that is bad. Mm-hmm. But who gives them the money? Quite apart from that, traditionally, culturally, our system endorses corruption. Look at all our proverbs.
3FM 90.
Searching your da on atafre. Any boy could trim. Searching your da. Searching your da. This on sayem. Diabatabu and it kana. A cynic at a boko. No one says on them. Ubi Pradia Kokotokwa and Yana bro. Are these not corrupt proverbs? Therefore, we have to look at our own culture. Mm-hmm. So saying that police is corrupt is so easy. Because these are the people you see outside. Who else do you see outside? Mm-hmm. And let's also look at the quantum. One man's corruption can dupe the country for about $10 million.
Can kill thousands of people.
Yes. And police corruption, one city. So is it the quantum or
3FM
the numbers?
92.7.
And is it because we are always on the... So I have a problem with the CDD, Afrobarometer, because the sample size, the context in which corruption is defined should also be made to us. So that we look at nepotism, patronage, and all those things, join them together, combine them with the money collection, and let's see who is corrupt.
3FM Sunrise.
And that was Nathan Kofi Boachi's COP, who turned 60 yesterday. Belated happy birthday, sir. He spoke some wisdom and some sense. This was 8 years ago on Hot Issues with Kwesi Pratt on TV3. But after Kwesi Pratt, I hosted Hot Issues. Those issues are still with us. They are still hot. Are we discussing them? And how are we approaching those issues? Already seated is the NPP's Director of Communication, Mr. Richard Ahiagbah. He's here in flesh and blood. To follow closely will be a Chief Servant at the Ghana Water Company Limited, Engineer Dr. Braimah. So you want to stay with us and file your questions in. We're on Twitter at 3FM927. The hashtag is 3FM Sunrise. Make sure you are joining us and being part of active society. We'll take a quick break. When we return from this break, there's more here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. My name is Johnny Hughes. See you soon.
Do you need money to start a business?
That
Do you need money to expand your business? Are you a government or private sector worker
came and said,
in
no,
need of money to sort out
you have to be the regional commander.
Do you need working
And I became a regional commander at the rank of chief superintendent. And you recall that time too, there was a holy balu about it that motivated.
Now, sir, it's also said that the incidence of armed robbery has gone down considerably from the mid-1990s to now. Is that true?
Well, you have to compare that also to the number of policemen, and also to the sophisticated nature of the robbery. So statistics alone cannot determine whether it has gone down or not. Because if you look at the type of robberies, the type of sophistication, because in 1990s and those days, you don't get daylight robberies. You don't get highway robberies. Unless it's, but Kumasi Accra Road, you get robbery on Kumasi Accra Road. And I don't think it used to be like that. Even those days when the roads are not good, were not good. So as to looking at statistics and saying it has come down or not, I cannot say. But all that I know is that robbery is present and clear danger to the nation.
Recently, about 12 men were arrested for carrying out a robbery. They were supposed to be coming from Odan area. They had vehicles and so on.
Yes.
More like a militia.
That is it.
Isn't this really worrying?
It was scary when I heard it, and I must commend the Accra police, Yowunu and his men, for doing a yeoman's job in that direction. Because when I listened to the story, I became scared. I said, how can people take 3 cars? One, the rendezvous car, one that they will pack the things in, and one with the Ford, which is a very fast car.
Yeah.
It means that it's a well thought out plan. You know, in the 2000 to around 2006, there used to be robbery gangs who, if we were not able to clamp down, will have developed what is called nucleus. In Nigeria, we have people with master's degree committing robbery. But now people decided that instead of going on robbery to be lynched, why don't I open office? People come and contact me to kill somebody and collect money. That's when we say that robbery, armed robbery, has gone nucleus.
You're talking about contract killing.
That is the point. Because it's more beneficial to do that than to go on robbery and go fishing for. And those days too, you know, people used to, when we arrested Atai and we asked him, he said he has never entered anybody's house to rob because it's risky. But the other you need to do is go to the bank, look at people, and they used to have people in the bank helping them. Then, you know, surely there's money, and they will trail you around traffic light. They just stop you, shoot, and take the money. And realize that if you are not being able to clamp down on this group, they'll go nucleus. And one example is that during those days, one man, I won't mention the name, a very prominent man in Ghana here, his own son contacted Atai, Chobeta, Kevin, Numwe, Malamabu, to go on robbery, and they robbed, and we arrested them. Eventually came out that his own son, who was arrested together with them, engineered the whole robbery. So you can see the danger that robbery poses to all of us.
So what can we do, or what can you as police do in order to stem this tide? What is required? That's
exactly what we are doing. We need more intelligence because it's very difficult to catch armed robbers on the job. It happens sparingly. But if you have intelligence in relation to, and that's why we have to develop more agents, more agent provocateurs, and more insiders. But the problem with the insiders is also that if you don't take time, they also take advantage of the relationship, dupe the armed robbers, dupe the police, and eventually you'll be on the wrong side. Therefore, what we have to do is get dedicated policemen, people who feel angry and scandalized when there's robbery. People who feel that robbery is the worst. My priority is robbery because it's the worst form of crime that can be committed against anybody. For instance, recently we arrested Apreku, Yabozin, and other. We are looking for Yabozin and one guy. Could you believe Apreku has more or less syphilis? And when they go on robbery and they want to rape, Apreku is the one to rape last. Anytime Apreku rape first, all the armed robbers will not rape. Can you imagine that?
Because they are civilians,
yes,
and they know.
And they know.
My goodness.
So, for robbery, and you see, robbery to...
And this morning we want to celebrate a few persons who have their birthdays today. Happy second birthday to Gwendolyn Joyce Nade Korte Nikwe. We share the same birthday with Mrs. Joyce Gwendolyn Korte, wife of Brigadier General I.B. Korte, and children. I wish you all the best of God's glory and His grace and His wealth and good health. Also, a happy birthday to Dr. Chief Natin Sako, CEO Health and Development Planners International and President Coffee Federation of Ghana. From your wife, Mrs. Chief One, Prophetess Ruthiana. And also a happy birthday to Mr. Walter Hope Ajamli, CEO of Wallin Company Limited. This is from Pandu Shell Manager Claudius Korte. Happy birthday to you. If it's your birthday, to a happy birthday. And I did tell you indeed that the communications manager of the New Patriotic Party is in studio.
Sunrise.
21 minutes after 8. Richard Ahiagbah, good morning, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. How are you doing?
I'm quite well, Johnny.
How's your new role treating you?
It's been good. It's been good.
Just that?
Yes.
So far, so good. Did you expect this kind of welcome and kind of settling in that you have now?
Well, I think you have a good number of people around you who are supportive. The party is generally focused on trying to deliver for the country, and so there is ample support that will make you settle in easy.
Where's the MPP now?
the MPP is at a solemn down.
I'm talking about where it is now in the scheme of things in our democracy. I'm sure you heard some of the narratives going on around. People may not be too happy about the MPP being in government and the present situations. They want to heap all the blame on the NPP. That's why I'm asking where the MPP is now.
Well, MPP is in a good place. But I think that the challenge that you're referring to, which is the difficulty, the economic difficulty in our country, I think that is one thing that it's not our promise. It's not one thing that we intend. It's not one thing that we are known for as a party. And so you've heard the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, admit the difficulty, how it might be impacting Ghanaians. And so it is something that we're not happy about. But if you think about it carefully, it is better the MPP in government today with the circumstances that we're in than any other party, because we have what it takes to restore the growth that is lost and the challenges that we're faced with to be able to resolve it. So the MPP is in a good place, and certainly Ghana will be back to a good place.
Do you have time on your hands?
Well, that's why we're hoping that beyond the term of His Excellency the President, would be able to win a third term. And I'll rationalize that for you, why it's important for Ghana that the MPP wins a third term. And I think that once we do that, we'll be able to consolidate Ghana, put Ghana's position economically, and then also be able to give to Ghanaians what we promised in our 2016 manifesto. So I think we are generally, I would say we're in a good place. Ghana is hurting a bit now, but that is because the whole world is hurting. And it's not only Ghana that is hurting. So it's better the MPP in government to be able to drive us out of it. And I hope that in probably toward the third or fourth quarter of this year, we'll begin to see substantial relaxation of the system, and the economy will begin to pick up, and Ghanaians will begin to see the hope that we promised, hope that we actually was delivering from 2017, 18, and 19. We'll see ourselves getting back there.
Don't you think the people have lost hope and faith in the government? Because if you look at the promises from 2016, the promises, some of which were repackaged or, if you like, upgraded in 2020, and what we have now, the people seem to have departed. They say you have lost track and you have lost touch with the people. And for which reason they have also lost faith and hope in you. Do you agree?
I entirely and completely, vehemently disagree with that. I, on that note, want to say a very good morning to the chairman of the party, Mr. Stephen Intim, to all his first, second, and third vices, and also to the general secretary of the party and the party rank and file regional executives all the way down. And I did that just to underline for you that the party itself is alive and is well and is focused on how is it that we can bring the economy back. Now, the reason you might say that people have lost hope is because we're in a difficult place. There is a reason for that. And when that reason is properly explained to Ghanaians, the hope that they have in the MPP is restored.
What is this reason?
The essential reason why we're here is because of the global difficulty. And I have had reason to oppose the intentional deceit of the NDC to characterize the economic difficulties that we're in as a function of government mismanagement, which is entirely not. And I worry sometimes that the media is falling prey to that narrative by the NDC to say that, oh, the economy is this before COVID. The economy was on the way down. They quote one World Bank official, Pierre Laporte, says so. You understand? And somehow the media is buying into that, but it's entirely false. It is not true. It's not borne out by the fact, but they've been repeating this. Classically, the NDC's approach, repeating it, and incidentally, people are beginning to believe in that. But I think that a time has come for us in the MPP to ensure that we reposition the conversation, have an objective discussions of the fact to show that where we are today cannot is not the function of government deficit in terms of management that is brought us here.
That's government, taking itself out of the blame. No. I mean, if there's a problem, there has to be an acknowledgement of what contribution you had as part of the problem. Yeah. So far, the government has only said where we find ourselves. The government has mentioned Russia, Ukraine, and COVID. Yeah. The government has mentioned global phenomenon. But the government has not said that we in government take 20, 25, 30% of the blame of where we find ourselves. Do you think it's fair to ask that you show what part you played in all of this?
So there are two things you said there. There's on one level you acknowledge that we have difficulty ultimately because you are in the seat. And so where we are now, if anything goes wrong, right, you have lieutenants who are working with you, but you take the ultimate blame. It's not because you have caused it. It may be the sound man, the DJ, and the rest who may have caused it, but ultimately it comes down to you. That acknowledgement has been given. Now, you don't accept responsibility in terms of, I have done this wrong, when you go down to it. When management calls and says, okay, so what went wrong? They say, well, I was DJing. You were not DJing, right? As to make the whole thing go bad. If government decision has caused this, then you are talking about accepting responsibility. But acknowledging government has acknowledged that we're in a difficult place and we are working to fix it. We will fix it. That's different from saying that accept responsibility because you didn't create the problem.
But Richard, you know it's only fair that if I give you rice, oil, tomatoes, onion, pepper, all the other ingredients to prepare jollof rice for me, and the jollof rice goes bad, you can't blame the utensils and the ingredients and the gas cooker. You, the person who was mixing the things together and actually supervising the cooking, should take portion of the blame for it.
You and I don't intend to bury you too.
So if you're a government running the affairs of state, you're happy to take on the plaudits when it comes. When there are bad times, you need to, beyond acknowledging that we're in a bad place, also say we admit that this is our failing. What do you say to that?
Okay, maybe I'm not informed enough. You can tell me what you think governments what government should take blame for. But I am telling you that the essential thing that must be done is to realize that, yes, the rice, the oil, and everything, the jollof you want me to prepare, at the end of the day, you don't have jollof on the table. I must acknowledge I didn't cook jollof, right? But the reason why I didn't cook jollof was that whilst you provided a gas stove, there's no gas.
Oh, I had jollof, but the jollof was not up to the standard I wanted. There's so much salt.
You have to stick to one analogy.
That's what I'm saying. That if I give you ingredients and everything else to prepare jollof for me, you prepare jollof and the jollof is not up to the standard. It's either soggy or salty or whatever it is. You can't blame it on everything else but yourself.
No, but so I understand what you're saying. So it could be, the reason I ask you to stick with one analogy is that if it is about cooking it, then there's a problem. That problem primarily is not a cause, something that I have caused, that there's no gas to cook it. So you have come, the raw material you gave me is still here. But if you're saying that you give me materials, everything, gas is there and I cook it and it's soggy, it's not the best that you wanted, it could be that the materials, the rice and the oil and the things you gave me were not up to standard to be able to cook the kind of jollof you want. But we need to be able to establish, is it rotten and therefore you got bad jollof, right? And that analysis is what I'm saying, that the NDC have decided intentionally with their propaganda machine to create the awareness in this country to say that it is not COVID, that it is not Russia-Ukraine war that has created this, but it is that which has created it. It's affecting everyone. It's affecting every country.
And you're not happy with that narrative?
No. But because, not that I'm not happy with it, I think that it should be improved. The media must engage. Now, if I am NDC or I'm MPP in a city and I say all these things, I know you will put me to street proof. We should be able to ask the NDC to point exactly what he thought that the MPP has done wrong.
They said you have borrowed too much.
Which is not true.
You have misapplied funds.
It is not true.
You have not borrowed too much?
It is not true.
How do you say it is not true?
It is not true. It's not true. We'll get to that. But it's not.
Let's get to it.
Clearly, it's not true. Right?
What debt levels did you meet?
Yes.
What are you bequeathing to us? So at the end of your 8-year term?
Right. So you see, the NDC continue to perpetuate this falsehood on Ghanaians. Now, when they go to calculate Ghana's debt, they put the nominal numbers together. They borrowed from 122, they left the debt. Now it is 575 billion. And so that is so majestically huge. And therefore, they have overborrowed. Not true. You don't calculate.
How do you calculate it?
You do an accumulation of debt. That explains the rate at which you are accumulating debt. Because if you are talking about the volume to explain accumulation, because that's what they are doing. They add the nominal numbers and say they have borrowed much. But that is not reflective of comparison, because if you want to compare, you use the real numbers in economics. So if you want to see the size or the structure of an economy, you can use the nominal numbers to say, well, this economy is big and this is the sum total of its production. But if you want to compare for purposes of seeking to see the performance of an economy, you use the real GDP to do that comparison. You don't use the nominal GDP. Okay? So when you come to want to compare between political parties or government to see who has borrowed more, because they're saying you have overborrowed.
Right.
Then it cannot be in nominal terms.
So you're pushing us to use percentage terms?
Not percentage terms, but the rate at which you are accumulating the debt demonstrates how much you have borrowed. You're following?
I get it.
So in this conversation, the NDC between 2013 and 2014 borrowed 50% of our debt. Now you tell me a responsible government that in one fiscal year will borrow 50%, so that if you owed 10 billion, as a country, our debt stock is 10 billion. NDC borrowed 5 billion in 1 year, one fiscal year. For what? And that is a party and a government, former party government leaders who are telling us that we have borrowed more. We have not borrowed.
But Richard, you know
amount.
that 50% of 100 is not the same as 50% of 200. 50% of 100 is not the same as 50% of 200. 50% of 100 is 50. 50% of 200 is 100. So when you go on that tangent, you are not balancing the equation the way it has to be balanced.
No.
Correct?
This has nothing to do with the equation. It has everything to do with our debt stock, how much of it you have borrowed, or how much money you have borrowed in relation to how much our debt was when you met it. Okay? So I just demonstrated to you that if we had 10 billion as our debt, if you borrow 10% of that, we know what it is. So it's not a question of 10% of this is more than that.
But there's also time value of money, correct?
Exactly. And that is why you can't use the nominal numbers. Okay, and I'm happy you brought that. That's the very reason why you can't use the nominal figures to compare. Because the value of 1 cedi in 2014, when they borrowed 50%, is not the same as 1 cedi today. So if you are comparing on that basis, it is wrong. And that's the very reason we've been calling them. You can't do that. But then they do that to excite people or to incite people to say, oh, they have borrowed. But it's not true.
But on the face value, the figure, if you look at the figures on the face value, there's so much. I mean, if you look at the envelope, there's so much that has come to you in terms of what you have borrowed.
Yes.
And there's no debate or ambiguity about that. And then they will cap the argument and say that, look, you've borrowed so much. We can't see what you have done with what you have borrowed.
Yeah, but that's also
another layer of the conversation.
Another layer of falsehood, because see, there is no way the NDC can convince anybody. And if they are convincing anybody, then we should be worried about their capacity to govern, because they sit in parliament and nobody. I want to emphasize, no government can spend a cedi of this country without going through proper approval process. So everything they say had come to us, how they got to know is because they sit in parliament, right? And how we spend that money, they know.
You think they collaborated with you?
Well, of course, it's a parliamentary process. So every cedi that must go to anything, they know about it. So they should rather tell us that we took the money we did spend it on ABCD and we say we're going to spend it on it. They should say that. Because the thing had gone through parliament. They saw it. They sit in committees, approve it. It came to plenary, approved, and their expenditure has been occasioned. And so if they say we don't know what you spent it on, then what did they approve the monies to be spent on? They should tell us. and then show that we wanted them to spend on A, B, C, D, and they didn't spend on it.
So
because
far they have not done
government cannot just go and dip its hand in Ghana's money and go and spend it on whatever it wants. It goes through Parliament.
National Cathedral is a point, is an example.
Yes, and I just wanted to quickly add to that, because you talk about all the monies going through Parliament. We found out that some of the monies that were allocated to the National Cathedral came from the Consolidated Fund without the approval of Parliament. So there are some monies that have found their way to certain projects where Parliament wasn't aware.
No, it's not from the Consolidated Fund in the sense you're saying. So there is this allocation to the, I forgot the technical name of it, that goes to the Finance Ministry.
Right. They're
able to spend from that. I'll give you the term when I remember. So
right.
it is expenditure, it's approved by Parliament, okay? It's approved, it's money is approved by Parliament, part of the budget that the Finance Ministry is able to spend.
Okay.
It's not tied to any particular thing,
it's just
but
not
it's
specific.
It's a balance of money devoted to be spent on. It's more or less a contingency. I remember
contingency
the actual
fund, contingency vote.
Contingency vote, exactly. You understand?
Right.
So it goes. It's that was the amount of money of the pool from where the Finance Ministry
But it's 80 million contingency. That's a lot.
No. You are talking about this year's
not
estimate.
This year. Before
it wasn't 80 million.
Before whatever we spent on the National Cathedral
it wasn't 80 million. This year, actually, the budget proposed to spend on National Cathedral about 80 million, which Parliament
Richard, what do you say to those who suggest that the economy was already in the hands of the IMF extended program when you got into power? The same IMF program that John Mahama's administration had gotten us into, and then your government extended the program onto 2019. As soon as the IMF packed their bags and left, we find ourselves in a ditch. What do you say to that? And that you have never actually been competent managers of the economy.
The evidence of MBB's ability to manage the economy is manifest. It's not us who are going to say. If you see what economy we inherited in 2001 and what we did with it, and see what economy the NDC inherited in 2009 and what they did with it, it's self-evident that the MPP, when it comes to managing the economy, that's much better than the NDC. That's one.
So then why are we back at the IMF?
Right. I mean, the issues are clear, right? In 2017, this economy was growing. 2018 it was growing. 2019 it was growing.
And that the IMF program extended.
The IMF left.
At what point? 2019?
Yes, the IMF left. The economy grew. All right? And then when the IMF left, what happened?
You tell me.
You were here. So I suppose we're having a conversation. You saw what happened. And I was building to a point for you that 2017, 2018, 2019, this economy grew. Right? And then in 2020, something happened. This economy was hit by COVID-19. Now, if you take a growth momentum from 17, 18, and 19, your rational expectation will be that in 2020 that economy will grow.
That's right.
You don't expect that economy to recline or decelerate. It would grow. But then something happened and that economy didn't grow in 2020. And that is COVID-19. Right? And then we went through, I think it was 0.4, grew up at 0.4, not negative. I have data here to show you. There are some economies that grew negative in the sub-region in that period, but we grew at 0.4%. Then in 2021, we picked up, the economy grew 5.3, 5.36, 5.4. In 2021. Now, important to note is the GDP of the last quarter of 2021, which was 6%. Indicating to you that you have a growth momentum you're going to carry into 2022. Now, in 2022, two things happened. In 2022, the budget for 2022 proposed a revenue measure. Government looking at a fiscal gap created by the expenditure through COVID, proposed a revenue measure. That revenue measure was met with a political opposition, intentional political opposition, and disfigured that measure, made it unpopular. Ghanaians moved away from it.
You're talking about the e-levy.
I'm talking about the e-levy.
But you didn't consult. One of the criticisms of the e-levy is that you failed to consult. In fact, the government said that we're going to have town hall meetings, 16 of them. I remember only 6. and then government rushed back. No, subsequent to when calls were made that there were no consultations. Same thing has been said about this excise tax, income tax, and then also the transport tax. Same thing is being spoken about this stabilization,
the growth and stabilization,
sustainability.
Sustainability, yeah.
Yes. So it does appear that consultation precedent to implementation of a tax handle is the problem of the government. Would you agree?
No, you see, so respectfully, right? Taxation is law.
That's right.
And taxation is imposed in its nature. Taxation is not consultation. You get what I'm saying? Respectfully, that's the nature of taxation. It is not. It's not me defining it. It is not you defining.
But before the tax comes, you need to.
No.
The people who are going to pay the tax need to understand.
You can say that. You have to do some background work to see acceptability rate and all of that. And indeed, with e-levy, the government did that.
Post the passage of.
They did a pre-taxation survey where they established, even then you remember the threshold that they established, where they say that in essence, just about a certain percent, I think about 40% or so would send more than 100 Ghana a day. And so therefore, the larger population would benefit from that threshold. So when you put that threshold, you're actually helping people who are poor to be able to send without paying any levies.
Right.
So there was that effort to understand the rate of acceptability.
ESA called it a regressive tax.
Sorry?
With ESA, they called it a regressive tax.
But that's fine. But you see, so I don't dispute that. But what we need to be clear about is the government's right to impose tax. You get that?
On the people.
On the people.
Who must agree.
No. You see, just 1 second. But the point I am making is that we don't need to mix the issue. Right? The reaction to the tax is one thing.
Right.
But the ability and the right for a government to impose tax is unimpeachable.
There's no debate about
that. But you see, when you then say that you need to consult, then it means that you are asking or trying to seek consensus so you can do that. But the point I am making to you is that by nature of government, the ability to impose tax is clear and defined in law.
There's no debate about Richard, sorry.
Yeah,
I asked that question because of the antecedents we've had with value-added tax.
Right.
In 1995, when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the late Victor Newman, Kwesi Pratt, Kweku Bako, Nyaho Tamaklo, when they led that big demonstration against VAT, it was because they said a lot of consultation had not happened. The government of the day at the time had to hold on until 1998, 3 years subsequent, to impose that tax, even though government had the right, as you're saying, by law to impose taxes on the people. Now, let's mirror that to the e-levy. This is the gentleman who led the demonstration, now in the chair as head of state. And a tax handle is going to be introduced. People are asking questions to understand. And it appears that the posture of the government was that we will go ahead regardless because we have the power to impose the tax. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, you wanted to come in.
You're going to say
but the point, So I don't dispute, and I recognize the history with the Kumipreko with the VAT. I recognize and appreciate that. But the point I am trying to say, in principle, given what has happened in history, I'm just trying to reiterate the position that government has the right to impose tax. The reaction to it is one thing, but let's not get to the point where you're saying that necessarily that negotiation must precede the imposition of the tax. There are two different things.
Would you say e-levy has failed based on the conversations and discussions?
Yes, so I would say to the extent that it hasn't delivered what was projected for it to deliver. I hear now is probably doing a bit better than initially. People's acceptability of it has gone up.
But that's because the threshold has been taken off.
That's also part of it, I should say. But the point I was going to make before we digress into the politics, which is fine, before we went into the politics, was that had e-levy gone through, and not suffer the political consequences that we all are aware of now, we wouldn't be where we are, at least going to the IMF. We wouldn't have been. And in that case, we wouldn't have a need to do a debt restructure, and we wouldn't have had a need to pass these last 3 revenue measures that you talked about, because then we would have gotten access to the funds with which to then close the fiscal gaps that became the problem after COVID expenditures.
Did the government bring that upon itself? Because the government, if you listen to roads minister, Greek minister, will pay levy, will pay all the farmers there, will provide fertilizers for the pay levy, your roads will be done, pay levy, contractors will pay levy. I mean, we put so much on e-levy that somebody even called it Ahiagbah, which can treat all manner of body ailments. That's the kind of premium government put on it. That's politicking. And once you start politicking, you don't expect the opposition to sit and stare and watch. They will also, respond in equal measure. Correct?
By the way, Ahiagbah was good.
Richard,
I don't know if he's still around, but Ahiagbah was good.
It's still around.
Yeah. So you see, I tell you this: the issue we just talked about were essentially what e-levy was supposed to do, okay, to help, undertake some development projects. Now, to tout those is not politicking. It is to be able to get citizens to understand that when we get this money, this is what we're going to use it for. It's actually responsible governance to make sure people know and they can follow what the expenditure, what the revenue is going to go to give or deliver for the people. So I think it's proper to do that. But the essential point that I want to make is that we are here because of the difficult politics in our country. And yesterday, I was having a conversation, and I think that we need to be able to, as a people, to be able to say what the NDC's role have been. Since we came into this second term of the president and the nature of our parliament, I said that, look, the NDC cannot say they are in opposition in the true sense of the word anymore, because we have a certain parliament that gives them equal say in how government operates. So that if the MPP has the executive and you have some appearance in parliament that helps you regulate or legislate the administration of the country by making sure that what the executive brings, you have a say to moderate it, to have it go through or not go through. You cannot claim that you are not part of the government.
At the last count, the 3 bills that came before Parliament, the tax amendment bills that came before Parliament, the NDC voted en bloc against it.
Fair enough.
Your side had a member of Parliament who was in an accident, was rushed to Parliament in an ambulance, and even declared that the vote was more important than his life.
Very well.
Just to make sure that the taxes were imposed on the people. He broke traffic regulations. He said it himself. He was stitched up in Parliament and all of that. That sounds like desperation on the side of government to impose more taxes on the people in these difficult times.
Yeah. So you see, and I told you, and we have to follow the storyline of what has happened in our country. Now, we are having to do those 3 revenue bills because of what? Because we had gone to the IMF. And at the heart of the decision to go to IMF, the NDC preferred politics over nation.
But you told us we will not go to the IMF.
Yes, because we knew that the revenue that we're proposing with e-levy will close the fiscal gap that has developed. So we would have been in a position to take care of our debt without having to go to the IMF.
So now we are at the IMF. Would you apologize to Ghanaians?
No, but you see, I'm telling you.
You won't apologize to Ghanaians.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I'm trying to have you get the story. Right?
I get the story. I mean, you told me.
But if you get a story, you won't ask me that question.
You have told me that, look, if we had gone through with e-levy, we had gotten whatever it is that we were expecting from e-levy, 6.9 million. That's billion. Well, if we had gotten it, we wouldn't then have to impose these new taxes.
We wouldn't have gone to the IMF. You know, these bills are consequence of the IMF.
That's right.
That we're seeking. Right? So if we hadn't gone to the IMF, one wouldn't have done the difficult debt restructure in this country, which is the first in our history. Nobody likes it. I don't like it. The president doesn't like it. We didn't have to do it. But it's an inevitable position we've been put in because our politics have become partisan.
Would you apologize? Partisan. Would you apologize to the people for taking us to the IMF?
You see, See, it is in the account language, it's as empire and to say. And we have to speak to the matter to say that the politics has become dysfunctional. That there must be a moment in time where people sitting in parliament will be able to see clearly and say our nation is headed in the wrong direction if we continue to advance our political interests. The NDC could have seen and be responsible and say that, no, we disagree with the e-levy, but this is how we think we have to do it. Not take the hammer to it, not politicize it in ways that actually make it a polarizing revenue measure.
They made proposals. You had 1.5.
Yeah.
They said 1%.
But you see,
some even said, look, drop it further. The finance minister says, no.
And why would the finance minister say no? Why? Because you are seeking a certain revenue to be able to address the problem.
But was he in sync with the situation of the people?
Hold on.
We're in difficult times.
You see,
our revenue levels have dropped. We woke up one day, we all have to go and buy nose masks and have to buy sanitizer.
Yes.
And we didn't plan for that.
We didn't plan for it.
So now if you are imposing some new taxes on the people, you need to be considerate.
But you see, I think you give me a very good example to analyze this thing. We woke up one morning or 1 year in our country and suddenly there's COVID. And we all have to change the way we lived. But we went through it and all survived. Government had to make certain decisions. Some people in our party said, oh, we are not socialistic, so why are we giving free water, free this, free that?
You still call it free?
But it was necessary.
Do you still call it free?
No, but I don't know what you mean by
we're paying for them.
No, but at the time you got it.
Well, if you buy something on credit, it doesn't make it free, does it?
No, please. You are not paying for what you use.
That we paid later.
What are we paying?
But the point is that you are not paying for what you use.
Engineer Braimah
By the time, the time we paid for the water, at the time you consumed the water, we didn't pay for it. Now, if you're saying we are paying for it later, what would have happened? Would you have paid for it if he died?
But it doesn't change the narrative.
No, listen to the point I'm making. Because you got that water free, because you sat home, didn't go to work and got your salary, because you got free electricity so you could stay home rather than risk it and go outside, you saved your life. Your life was saved. So now today, if you are alive, it's a dividend that you are paying for that. Otherwise, what if we didn't have that measure and all of us would have died?
But Richard,
now wait.
Richard,
I'm not having a political conversation with you. I'm having a rational conversation that you should follow.
Richard.
No. I'm saying
so it's okay if you have a political conversation.
But Richard,
but I'm saying that's not what I'm having.
Richard, if I walk into my cafeteria today and I can get a plate of food from Kwali on credit, at this point, I cannot call it free, even though I've not given him money for it. But tomorrow, Friday, when I come and I have to pay for it, the food was never free.
No, you have to understand the context in which I'm speaking.
What is the context?
In COVID, what was happening? We're all at risk of losing our lives, right? So people had to stay home. They were paid. People had to stay home because they were not making. They were supposed to stay home and not go out and be risky. They stay home. We gave them water because you need to wash your hand regularly. We need to be, sanitary to be able to go through. Water was given free. Electricity was given free. And I'm saying that as a matter of self-preservation, if those things were not done, if those things you said was given, and then we are paying for it. Just wait. I'm saying that you say you are paying for it because today you are alive to be able to pay for it. But if it wasn't given at the time you needed it and you died, would it be of any consequence?
So that's the reason the government still
calls
calls it free water, free electricity.
But it was free at the time when you got it. And he saved you today so you can pay for it.
But
if that's what you're saying, but I'm not sure if you're following, because now today we are out of the context of COVID. So now you can imagine that this is an esoteric concept. But in the middle of it, if Ghana Water would have gone to cut somebody's water, the conversation would have been different to say that we are in this difficult situation. We need the water to make sure that people are healthy, people are staying sanitary so that we don't spread the disease, and they have gone to cut water. So you had water, you had electricity for free, and you saved your life.
So you
right? So now, yes, it's an investment in the lives of Ghanaians so that today we can build the economy together. Look, the debt that has accumulated as a result of that, who do you think would pay for it? Are we not Ghanaians to pay for it?
But we got so much for COVID, didn't we? To the extent that we even used the surplus to support our budget.
But that is your economy. You see, I hear the NDC talk this thing, and I don't understand. But the point is that they have
a COVID audit report,
yes,
which is a prerequisite for the IMF deal. Yeah. And we have seen the things in the COVID report. This is not us saying, this is your government presenting before Parliament and to the IMF that this is how much we got from COVID, this is how much we spent for it. Never mind Felicia Tete in Sanerigu who said she got 100,000 as a party chair or regional chair. We're not talking about those ones. We're talking about the fact that if you are, it feels convenient enough to talk about COVID, Russia, Ukraine, and that's why we find ourselves, NDC, you should also be convenient enough to say that, look, we got so much because of COVID, and that we have spent so much here because of COVID. I mean, we should balance the equation. Shouldn't we be balancing the equation?
Yeah, so you see...
That you got so much for COVID. COVID, yes, destabilized things, we agree.
Yeah.
But you also got so much for COVID. So while you blame COVID, praise COVID.
You know, this thing that says if somebody pretends to be asleep, it's difficult to wake them up. Because everything you have just said now, if you look at the COVID audit report, there isn't any money there that somebody has taken and put in their pocket. The argument they are making is that you spend some 11 billion or so directly on COVID, and the rest you spend to support the budget.
Felicia Tete's matter has not come to the table of the party.
No, I'm saying that. So what is the problem there?
She said she got 100,000 of COVID funds.
I'm not talking about Felicia. I'm not talking about Felicia. I'm talking about the audit report.
Right.
That if a certain amount is given, about 21 or so billion, and then 11 billion is spent directly on COVID activity, and then the rest is used in budget support. Is that corruption? Is that the abuse of the money for somebody? Okay. It is spent on Ghanaians. I don't get the point why.
We have misapplication, misappropriation of funds.
Right.
Is there anything like that in the law? If you have been given money,
wrongful use of the money.
Once you can justify, it doesn't make it right in the face of the law. That's my first point.
William, use the mic.
Yeah, the second point I'm making is that you've made the point about...
Are you asking a question or...
No, I mean, that was just... If you want to react, that's fine. I'm not asking a question. That's my understanding of the money you were talking about with respect to the COVID.
Yeah.
That if money is given for COVID and you use it for another thing, in the law, we have something we call misappropriation.
You see, the monies that came...
Yes.
They were not strictly COVID directed. I don't have my document here. I'll show you.
If you don't have it, then we can't.
No, please. No, please.
I'm saying I don't want you to go there.
Is he?
That's what I'm saying.
Panelist?
That's what I'm saying. That because when you look there, I thought you were going to give me a document.
What? He said documents.
But once you are not here, then I'm saying that
no, please. This is public.
Allow him.
This is public information. You are journalists. You should do the research. The money that came from the World Bank. Read what the instruction is for that money. This is not something difficult. You Google it. Since you want to take that position, you Google it and say what is the direction for it. Is it specified as spent on COVID only? No, that's not the case. The money didn't stipulate. It mentions COVID. It didn't say that unless you spent it on COVID, don't spend the money. So this thing about misappropriation, this application doesn't exist.
So Williams, we have to go. We have to bring Engineer Braimah in at this point. But the point is that William is saying that look, Helen gives Johnny money to buy a bottle of water. Johnny comes and decides that I don't need a bottle of water. I need 2 AA batteries for the air conditioning remote. So right from the beginning, Johnny has misapplied the money. Yes, because he was supposed to get water and he chose to get battery because the office needed batteries.
Johnny, let me help.
But he has not gotten the water.
The money did not come with that stipulation. The money did not come with that stipulation. If you can just Google and see the World Bank money, if that stipulation was attached to it. So there was no such thing.
Is then MPP...
So there is no question of misapplication or whatever. That does not apply.
Okay.
The point is that there is COVID that is affecting your economy. Get money spent so you can save your citizens. So it is not to say that you cannot spend to support the budget.
We have to go.
You cannot spend to save people or support your budget. Both spending to save COVID to save life directly, and spending to save the budget goes to saving the lives of Ghanaians. This fallacy the NDC keeps promoting, and somehow I have a problem that the media is buying into that. We need to be able to look at the issue and respond and ask the NDC to explain why they are saying that when
you have too many communicators even at the presidency explaining things and expecting the media to...
But you see, you are the moderators of the conversation.
Right.
So if you take a certain position, it becomes difficult to get past it. Because the questions you're asking me now, the discussion really that I want to have with you is how we are building the economy back. But because you are asking this question, right? We are stuck in this position.
You promised that to build the economy back.
William is asking a certain question.
Richard, hold on for me.
Which he can just simply Google. But because the NDC said it and he's internalized it, he's asking it as though... But you can just Google and see. There was no condition that you...
Gentlemen, one at a time. No. So, Richard, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up this way.
I'm saying you can Google it.
Richard, focus, please. Let's wrap up this way. We're wrapping up the conversation. You are talking about bringing back the economy. Your government promised to move us from taxation to production.
Right.
And so far, it appears that more taxes have been imposed than more production has been done. And that's why the people say, if we are to vote tomorrow or even today, chances of the MPP winning the elections will be very, very slim. What do you say to that in closing?
Well, given the circumstances that we're in, it is very difficult for a Ghanaian to believe that the difficulties that we're going through is not the fault of the government. It's difficult. But I have confidence that Ghanaians looking past the difficulty can see the difference in terms of management of the economy of the two political parties. And that's the point really I wanted to make to you, to say that yes, we acknowledge the difficulty. Yes, we see that we're going to suffer some challenges with Ghanaians because that was not a promise we gave them. But my confidence in us being able to win, okay, or do better even now if you organize an election, is the idea that Ghanaians have a sense of what we have done. And Ghanaians understand where we are. And I need that education to be strengthened. And why I'll make the case to you that you, the media, must moderate fairly and stick to the issue. To say that an economy that was growing 17, 18, and 19 suddenly went down, and the reason it went down, we know because COVID happened. Right? And that economy suffered a double effect of global fiscal financial tightening and then of Russia-Ukraine war that affected and disrupted global supply situation. And that created cost of living crisis across the world.
Russia and Ukraine are still fighting and they're exporting stuff.
But I'm saying that...
Why are we crying more than the bereaved?
Look, when the U.S. Vice President came here, what did she tell you? Said that Russia, Ukraine is affecting the global situation. The IMF boss, what did he tell you? Saying Russia, Ukraine is affected. Just 15th March, when IMF went to Ivory Coast, the reason they are trying to support Ivory Coast is Russia, Ukraine. The Kenyan financial secretary, the Bank of Ghana governor equivalent of Kenya, went to their parliament finance committee and told them that their currency is losing position quickly against the dollar because of COVID and Russia-Ukraine. So the situation is global. It's across board. Everybody is suffering it. The only challenge we have in Ghana is that there are people in Ghana who are denying the impact of those, and we need to be clear and forceful to make that point to them and need your support to hold us, the MPP, accountable, hold the NDC accountable to say that if you say it is not COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine that has created this problem, what is the cause and what is your solution? I have before me here Ghana Statistical Service. I have a Ghana Statistical Service document. I can leave it with you.
Right.
All right. To let you know, the NDC is running about saying that, in 2019, the economy started going down. This is a government document, Ghana Statistical, they quote it all the time. It shows you how healthy the economy was in 2019. So the only thing that has brought us where we are is because of COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war. But we are fixing it as we did before. We'll fix the economy.
you will fix the economy. I hear you. Richard Ahiagbah, thank you very much for your time. He's the Director of Communications for the NPP. More questions that we wish we could have asked, but unfortunately,
you don't have time.
We don't have too much time.
If you decide not to have time, you can't ask more questions.
Well, the point is that yesterday we